Let's start. Yeah, my talk today will be about passion to pet project publication, which means I will be talking how to convert your idea to something that you can publish and share with people around you. So a bit about me. I have some experience on Android. I worked as a teacher at university. And what is relevant with today's talks, I have a small modest open source project with 50K monthly downloads. So I know something about it, and I will share it today with you. I bet that you had probably an idea, maybe some great idea that you want to build, and you create. So the first thing that you do is you create GitHub repository, and then you forget about it. For example, I have many repositories that's completely empty because I didn't have like motivation maybe to finish them. So usually this happens because we have no time to do it, we have no motivation, or we don't receive any feedback, which will help us to finish this. So why in the first place we are building these pet projects open source? Because like there are several reasons. First, maybe because we want to learn something new. For example, if we want to learn Compose, we can try to build some project with Compose. Yeah. Also, we want to boost our personal brand. So, for example, if you have a really cool repository, it will be maybe easier to find a new job because people will try to hunt you because you're a really cool guy who created this repository. Put your name there. Yes. Also, you can connect with new people. They will maybe connect through this repository, maybe through because they know you because of this open source work. That's really cool. And it's also a way to give back to community because obviously we use many open source projects in our Android applications and we're really grateful for them. So if you have something really cool that you can share with people and to wrap it in open source, this is really cool and beneficial for all of us to drive further in our adventure. So to give some motivation, yeah, we can start with small at the beginning and we can achieve a lot at the end. Just remember Linux, it was like a small project in the beginning and now it's like ruled the world in some way. Yeah, obviously. So who knows? Our plan for today is how to choose an idea, how to prepare or cook a project for people, how to publish it in with high quality, how to interact with the community. And at the end, there will be bonus point, which is a secret for now, so stay tuned. Let's start with an idea, as everything usually starts with it. So my first piece of advice that choose an idea that you're passionate about, because you'll have motivation to finish this project eventually. And without motivation, just feels like extra work, like you already worked a hard day and now you need to build something again. Why? So there are several, from the big picture idea types. The most obvious maybe it's pet project for Google Play. For example, you had an idea for some small game or maybe for some cool, I don't know, organizer. You can build it and push it. Another is about learning. As I mentioned before, you can use, for example, new tech stack like coroutines, Compose, etc., which is maybe a bit different from your stack at work. So you just learn new things without maybe idea to share it with people, but still. And the last one, it's like you want to build some library that solves a problem. It can be different. For example, you have some nice view, I don't know, some calendar picker with cool animations, or maybe it's some multi-threading library, or maybe it's some testing utility. It can be different, but still. Today, I will focus mostly at the library part that usually people open source. It's usually libraries, not applications. Also, some maybe pieces of advice would be beneficial for pet projects to learn, because you can also create this pet project, add some documentation, and people will actually read it and maybe learn something from this code. That also happens. I see that a lot. So today I will be referencing during my talk this library that I built, and like there are some points that will be mentioned, so you can check it later. But it's not like the main idea of the talk. It's just it will be referenced to show some points. My next advice is to think about a project as a product, yeah, because you want to achieve something, and it's easier to see what you are going to do, and then from the end you can like step back, understand what you're doing and why. So you can think, for example, who is your customer? Is it only you if you're learning something for you, or maybe you built a library to share with people, yeah, for whom like you're doing that. Another thing is like what value it brings, because like if you're doing, for example, the same but in different way, it might be cooler in some specific case, yeah, and you should maybe focus on that. And also, what is your goal? Like to learn something maybe, or like to be like to boost your personal brand, or what? So think of it as a product, because you spend your time. It must be like spent with high quality. So summary for this part, choose idea that you're passionate about, decide what your goal is, and think of it as a product. Next step is project preparation. So how to cook it properly. So code is not enough. Usually if you create some code, it's really hard to use without any documentation. Yeah. So people need to know how to use your project. Also, they need to understand how to access, yes, where to find artifacts. If you have a library and you have only code, it's kind of hard to integrate sometimes. Also, some people, if it's open source, they maybe want to contribute. They found a bug in your code and they want to fix it to help you. Why not? So, obvious thing is to add documentation. You can create README for your project with different steps, like what this project is about, how to use it, how to add to Gradle, for example. Other big part is code documentation. As you can see on the right, there are no code documentation, so it's a bad example. I intentionally put it here because it may be not obvious how to use this code. So, and inside Android Studio, usually we read documentation from classes that are referenced there. Also, if you created some project, but it's not like widespreadly known with people, to give some credibility to it, you can add tests, because if you can see that it's green, people like feel a bit calmer and they trust you. So, for example, at this project, I use this easy recipe. I covered it with unit tests because it was a library without UI, so it was not so hard to cover it. And then I use Jacoco. This is utility builds test coverage of your code. For example, if you covered only half of your code, it will show that you covered only half of it. And maybe it's trusted only on like 50%. So it will help you to find spots that you haven't covered yet, and you can use it. Another good website that works free for open source project, it's called covered.io. It's not advertisement because it's really great stuff. I use it. So it helps you to show it's visually how your code covered. What we saw on the previous slide, it was done with code coverage. So to set this CI for contributions and for contributors, you can use GitHub Actions. It's also another thing that is completely free if you're doing open source. Like really, many companies help you if you're doing open source because it's beneficial for all. So you can use GitHub Actions. On your project, you can create a file, for example, health YAML, this path. You can define on what triggers you should run this CI. For example, when someone pushes to main or when someone creates a pull request. Then you define what to do. For example, I want to check out my repository on the build machine. Yes, check out. Then I want to set up Java because Android project requires Java. Then I want to cover it with tests. So as I mentioned before, there is Jacoco, which runs unit tests, and then using bytecode, see which branches, which passes my code, my unit test actually covered. And then I upload my code coverage to CodeCov. It is like third step. So at the end, it shows on pull requests the summary of what changed and if this new code is also covered with the unit tests, which is great. So you can find some sample file here. Also, personally, I love badges. When I see them in some open source libraries, I can trust them because I see badge that is really cool. So I advise you also to put some badges in your repository. It looks like a real cool open source. Summary for this part. So create how-to. Add documentation, obviously. Cover this test if applicable, if possible, because sometimes it's hard to cover UI, for example, yeah, but still there are maybe some logic behind this UI that you can try to cover. It will be not maybe 100% covered, but still, if some part of it covered, it's better than nothing. And you can also set up pipeline for CI. So obviously, all of these steps are optional, but if you follow all of them, they will give more credibility to your project and more people will trust you and will try maybe your library. What about publication? So this is interesting part because there is another good site and company called Jetpack, and to publish something, it's really easy. You just create a GitHub repository with your library, which obviously you done like at the beginning, and that's all actually. But how this works? What magic behind this all? Actually, it builds artifact on demand. So firstly, add another like sample project, for example. You add dependency to your library. For example, in my case, is like shared preferences mock. Also, we need to define a repository at Jetpack.io. This is like the only one line. This is different from any other like things that you usually do when you add some dependency. Then you sync your project, as simple as this. And Jetpack builds on first request. So when you use this reference and you try to build, so the request goes to the server and Jetpack build it. This is really cool because like it's zero work from your side. But there is Maven Central, which is like default repository for Maven, like for Java, Android. So this is why people trust it a bit more, because it has some extra level of security. For example, it signs with cryptographic keys, so we can check if this library was actually built by like this guy. So this is more trustful source. But you need few extra steps. I will mention them shortly. So at first you register to Maven Central website, then you generate public-private keys. Then you set up application build Gradle. Ideally, you can set up action in GitHub Actions again. It's also quite easy. So you will be able to publish your project from GitHub without using your local machine. It's really cool because you can lost, for example, your public key and you can't publish new library, for example. That's a problem. So that's why set in this GitHub action is really good for you. Long story short, there are like many articles. Personally, I used this back in the day. I still think it's mostly like relevant. If it's not, you can Google some extra steps like almost anywhere, and there are like really good tutorials. So I won't cover them like, because they're really good, and I don't want to spend too extra time here. So summary, Jetpack is an easy way to publish a library, really cool. Maven Central is a standard way, but requires a few extra steps. So you can first start with Jetpack, for example, if you can see that people actually use it, like use your library, you can like migrate to Maven. That actually what I did some time ago. So I saw that some people used my library to test shared preferences, and I created this source of application on Maven Central. Let's talk about community. So, okay, we created our repository, we built really cool stuff, and now we are like sitting and waiting where our 100K stars on GitHub coming, where are they? Yeah. But unfortunately, it doesn't happen if you just sit and watch somewhere. You need to do something. So you need to find your community actually and engage with it. There are many steps. Some maybe obvious. It's like to post a link to your project on LinkedIn, on X, Twitter, or some other platform. You can also write an article about it. It can be done in different ways. For example, you can tell what is like inside your library and to share maybe some interesting stuff about it. It can be an article like a bit with advertisement, like my library is cool because it does this. So there are different ways how to achieve and create an article. Also, you can talk about the project at the conference if it solves some problem really good. People will be happy to listen, so don't hesitate. Also, one not obvious thing that actually it was not. It's not my original idea, but I also read somewhere that you can answer Stack Overflow questions. For example, going a bit back. So my library helps to unit test shared preferences because shared preferences on Android require Android framework to run. And unit tests are run on JVM, so there is no way to do it. There are ways of using Mockito, for example, but you need to write like mock many times. There is Roboelectric library that takes some time to start, yes. Or you can use instrumented test, but still these things, they all require some extra things to do, which I didn't like. So I re-implemented shared preferences on JVM, so we can like mock them on like in your tests with with one line of code. So I found some questions on Stack Overflow that was about like how I mock shared preferences on Android in unit tests, and I answered it. And actually, people liked. Maybe not so many, but 4 still very good. It's not negative. I didn't like push the endorsement. I just like says what it does and how to use it. So this is good. Also, one important thing, if you actually have people that look into your project, they maybe ask some questions there, or maybe even create PRs, which is really great. So, for example, at my project, I had the PR. It was created like 2020, in 2020, and then I actually was sleeping a full year, and only after a year I found that someone created PR, and I was like, wow. So I thanked the guy and actually accepted this contribution. So this is also a bad example on my project how I handled this, because I waited like full year to answer the developer. So obviously now I try to be more careful with this. Another thing, for example, there is Android Arsenal website where you can like search for libraries, and you can also put your library for free there. That's maybe help you, maybe not, but why not? Because it's free and maybe beneficial for someone. So summary for this part: find opportunities to share your project, but please don't spam, because if you are doing it too much, pushing too forward, people only will have negative thoughts about your project and will never try it. So be a professional here. And engage with community. If you have even one question, one PR, it's still great, and people maybe will use it. Why not? And finally, my secret point, it's called legal issues. What you should care about in this area. So first point is code license, and it actually protects you, and it protects users of your library. Why so? So license defines for you that you have no warranty, so people can't just try your emails and ask you to change something to fix, because you don't give any warranty on this. You like you can't return this product in 40 days, for example. Also, it limits modifications. For example, you can limit private modifications. So you build really great stuff, and you don't want that forks of your library will be private because you want to share it with everyone. This is like option. It's not must, but it's option. And also, it allows distribution, so people can actually use it. And from the other side, because you have license, some standard license, it is available to use for commercial usage. So for their applications in Google Play, and then don't have to pay you any royalties because it's free for them, and a license states that. Another thing that license, again, is about is modifications. Can they just fork it and hide some changes there, or should they keep them public? That depends on the license. And it solves any legal issues because sometimes there are like people bring companies in court for stealing code, for example. One company may bring in court another. So license actually covers this, and at least they can say like we use this following this license, so it's not on our part if something goes wrong. So to choose a license, there are several simple options. For example, you can use MIT license. It allows almost everything from the usage point of view and from modification point of view. But from your side, it saves you from any warranty, and like also people who use it, applications who use your library should put some copyright, like they used your library. This is not actually like. This is maybe great to read in some application that they use your library. This is kind of cool bonus. Also, there is a GNU GPL license. It limits a bit modification more. So if someone forks your project and modifies it, they must keep it public. They can't hide it. So this is the only difference, like the biggest difference there. Other things are almost the same. And if you're still not sure what to use, you can visit this website, which is pretty good and describes in details. Maybe not in all details, but still it will be easier to you to choose between different licenses. And one tricky question for you. So if you ever copy pasted StackerFlow code, please type plus in comments. And what license applied for StackerFlow do you know, by the way? So I will give you a bit to think about it. So the horrifying answer here that code at Stack Overflow could be with any license. It could be copied from any private sources. You don't know what people put there. So by any means, please don't copy paste Stack Overflow code. Like there are also other reasons, like it may be buggy, but with license, it's also maybe very bad for your company if it has some process ongoing with license checking. This could be a problem. So if you found some useful code, like check an idea from it and write code yourself in your application. Really, it could save you millions of dollars in the future. It's not like the case that occurred, but that's something that you can read on TechCrunch, I believe, because there are some things like that. So to cover this, open source at work. Another point, it's like where to do open source, because some employers allow you to do open source at work, and you probably publish this as open source from your company. That is okay, but you need still to consult with people in your company. If you do open source at home, like for yourself, please use your machine, not employer machine, and use your free time, because it can be also a problem in the future if by any means your project becomes really successful. For example, I heard something about Nginx server. I believe you heard about it, that like previous employer tried to sue Nginx because like part of it was done during like founder work time. So this is really this could be important after some years. Of course, at the beginning you don't think about it, but still, it's better to check with it. So, summary: add license to a project. Mid license is like almost allow everything, and it's easier for you and for other people. GNU, it's a bit more private in terms of modifications, so it must be public modifications. And do not copy code from Stack Overflow. That's another good advice for today. And use your machine and time for pet projects if it's not like for your employer. So just you be clear with all terms. So let's summarize our talk for today. Important things: choose an idea you're passionate about, so you actually have chances and motivation to finish it. Care about your project in terms of preparing it for community, for you. Engage with community if you actually have some people using it. That's good. Be careful with legal issues, because it may cost you a bit later, and maybe people not use your library not because it's not good, but because they don't know what license applied here, and they frightened to use it because of legal issues. So thank you, everybody. I hope this was helpful, and I'm ready to answer any questions if you have, please.
Thank you very much, Evan. That was a really informative session, not only in terms of open source, but in building libraries and maybe choosing impactful projects and interacting with the community. There was some really good notes. We have this question here from Sakib. Can you please share any website, repo where I can find open source projects in which I can contribute?
I know one website. I bet you also know. It's called GitHub. Actually, any library that you use on Android, for example, Retrofit, I don't know, RigJava, coroutines, you can find this project. I think for coroutines they maybe use some different. I'm not sure, or maybe GitHub. But still, usually you find library on GitHub. You read README. As I said, it's important. And on README, there is usually a topic about contributions. And there is instruction how to be a contributor, what you need to do. For example, for Meta, you need to sign some electronic agreement. It's just formality. For Retrofit, maybe you just create PR. So it depends on library. So basically, you choose any library that you like. For example, you found a bug in I don't know coroutines. I don't know by any means it's good, but still it can be. So you find this repository, you check this topic, how to be a contributor, and you create a PR. That's
and one more thing that I want to add also here, like some repos would have good first issue, like for people who are just starting an open source project, like picking up good first issues, easy issues that can be done, and can be isolated. This is a good starter in open source projects. If you opt to go to apps, I believe there is Ivy Wallet. There is the Telegram open source, but Telegram, I guess they have some contests and it's a bit different there. There's lots of options, and there's lots of things to contribute to in terms of Android and in general, in GitHub projects. So that's it. One more thing is that how do you measure the impact of your open source project? Is it by just stars, or how many people have forked it, or how many people are using this in their day-to-day lives?
So from analytics point of view, you mentioned you can see stars, you can see maybe forks, contributions. If you actually found the time to use Maven Central, for example, publication, or even in Jetpack, you can open this page and see on statistic how many people actually download it monthly, how many unique users. So the metric of 50K monthly, I got from this Maven Central statistics. But it again depends on the reasons why you're doing this. Like maybe you did this just to learn some new things, and the impact will be just to learn something new. That will be fine for you. You can share this with people, and you're just happy with it. That's all. If you're trying to be, yeah. So that's it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, last thing, and what kind of trends that you see like shaping the future of open source projects, especially with like huge LLMs coming now and lots of open sourcing in the realm of LLMs, and there's lots of open source projects that are widely popular.
So the question is about like what trends I
Like
see.
what trends, did you see?
Yeah. So I think that like it's not like trends, but it's permanent now that open source is really easier to contribute to right now because there are great stuff like GitHub. There are many CIs that will check your code. There are many people and companies who believe in it because maybe before some companies were thinking that it's better to hide code from everyone because it's beneficial for them. But now they see that it's actually better to build maybe some common artifact and use with all companies because in the end, this will help like to all community. So I think that most companies right now trying to share what they done, and it's really great. You can actually contribute to you can contribute to Meta, just not working there, but it's really cool.
Exactly. Thank you very much, Ivan. That was a really informative session, and we hope to see you again.
Thank you for having me. Yeah.
Thank you.